What if your next decision wasn't truly yours? What if the apology you're ready to accept, the offer that feels impossible to refuse, or the person you can stop thinking about, were all carefully shaped by invisible hands guiding your thoughts? In the next few moments, you'll begin to see those hidden forces. You'll uncover the psychological tricks that twist your memory, the subtle cues that silence your logic, and the stories that sell you emotions disguised as truth. Stay with me. I'll show you how to recognize manipulation the instant it happens, how to cut through its strings without burning bridges, and how to speak with a calm, commanding presence that makes people listen. By the end, you won't fear influence anymore. You'll master it. And once you understand how it works, you'll never be deceived again. Before we begin, take a moment to support this channel. Hit the like button, share this video with a friend, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters here. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The Hidden World of Dark Psychology. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most of what we call free will is a conversation between our feelings and someone else's framing. We think we're deciding. Often we're just agreeing with a story that was placed gently in our path. If that sounds threatening, stay with me. This isn't a call to paranoia. It's an invitation to see what's always been there, quiet, ordinary, and powerful, so you can breathe easier inside your own life. Dark psychology is not a monster in a mask. It is the study of how manipulation, control, and deceit move through everyday moments. It shows up as a raised eyebrow that makes you doubt your memory, a warm compliment that lowers your guard, a ticking clock that forces a fast yes, a carefully chosen silence that makes you explain more than you meant to. It is subtle because human beings are subtle. We rarely push each other with force. We nudge with emotion. We frame with language. We anchor with rituals. We use the gravity of belonging to pull people into our orbit. When you begin to notice this, you won't stop trusting people. You will start trusting your own signals. Look at a simple day. You open your phone, and an app badge is bright red instead of pale blue. Your attention jumps because red feels urgent. You pass a shop where the sign says, "Only 3 left." You never wanted the item until the word "only" told your body a story of scarcity. A colleague says, "Everyone's on board with this direction," and now if you disagree, it won't be about the idea. It will be about leaving the tribe. None of these are crimes. They are levers that turn feelings into motion. Influence is everywhere because attention is limited and emotion is fast. We are built this way. The goal is not to become immune. The goal is to recognize the current. As you swim, good. Moral people often fall victim to unethical persuaders for a simple reason. They assume shared rules. If you would never twist the truth to get your way, you underestimate those who will. If you value harmony, you will pay for peace with pieces of yourself. If you were taught that kindness is always saying yes, you will confuse compliance with love. The manipulator studies not your strength, but your tenderness. They listen for the place you cannot bear to be seen as selfish, difficult, or disloyal. Then they build the scene where protecting yourself looks like betraying someone else, and you, being decent, hand over your clarity to prove your goodness. None of this makes you weak. It makes you human. But humanity is exactly why we must learn the language of influence, so goodness can stay good without becoming prey. It helps to separate 3 ideas. Influence is the soft wind that moves the leaves. It is any force that changes what you notice, how you feel about it, or what options seem available. Persuasion is influence with an argument attached. It uses reasons, evidence, and structure to guide you from one belief to another. Good persuasion respects your ability to choose. It wants your informed consent. Mind control is persuasion that hides its hand while limiting your freedom. It stacks tools: fear, isolation, scarcity, confusion, until your inner compass feels unreliable, and the outside voice starts to sound like your own. In influence, you remain the author. In persuasion, you co-author. In mind control, someone quietly edits your script and tells you it was always yours. Now ask yourself, how often are your choices shaped before you choose? You scroll a feed calibrated to your past clicks, and you call it research. You accept a deadline that was invented to make you hurry, and you call it pressure. You accept a narrative about a friend because it was spoken with confidence, and you call it truth. Again, none of this makes you foolish. The mind saves energy by letting emotion lead and letting stories compress complexity. Dark psychology exploits this efficiency. It uses urgency to drown out doubt. It uses charm to attach pleasant feelings to risky decisions. It uses confusion to keep you busy explaining instead of deciding. The defense is not to harden. The defense is to slow down. Slowness is clear thinking in practice. The first tool is awareness. Notice your body before you fix the situation. Does your breath go shallow around a certain person? Do you leave calls with foggy thoughts? Do you say sorry when you mean no? That's data. The second tool is language. Replace apologetic explanations with simple boundaries. I can't do that. I need time to think. Put it in writing. The third tool is pace. Any choice that cannot survive a night of sleep is a choice designed to benefit someone else. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to compare. You are allowed to ask, what happens if I say no? Ethical people will answer with clarity. Unethical persuaders will answer with pressure. The response tells you what you need to know. Why do moral people get caught in nets that seem obvious in hindsight? Because manipulation is a mirror. It reflects back your values and asks you to prove them quickly. If you value loyalty, it will create a crisis where loyalty means breaking a boundary. If you value empathy, it will produce tears right when you reach your limit. If you value competence, it will flatter you with a role you've always wanted, but only if you accept impossible terms right now. The solution is not to abandon your values. The solution is to decouple them from speed. Loyalty that requires you to disappear is not loyalty. Empathy that requires you to accept harm is not empathy. Competence that requires you to bleed quietly is not competence. Keep your values. Change the timing. There is also a quieter trap, the belief that seeing the pattern will make it vanish. Understanding is not a magic shield. It is a map. You still have to drive. And driving means making choices that may disappoint others. It means letting people be upset without bending reality to soothe them. It means accepting that some relationships were built on your compliance, and when compliance ends, so does the relationship. This can feel like loss, and sometimes it is. But the space that opens is where honest connection can finally grow. People who can love you without a leash do exist. They just need you to stop wearing a collar. Knowledge is power because it returns authorship. When you know that urgency is a lever, you can breathe and ask for terms. When you know that flattery is a tool, you can enjoy it without renting your judgment to it. When you know that confusion is a tactic, you can pause the conversation until the fog lifts. When you know the difference between influence, persuasion, and mind control, you can name what is happening instead of fighting shadows. Names reduce fear. Clear names return choices. Ignorance, in this world, is not innocence. It is vulnerability. If you don't know the game, you will play by rules that only exist to keep you small. You will work harder than you have to, explain longer than you should, and accept less than you deserve. The remedy is not anger, it is education. You can learn to listen for the tells, the only for you offer, the everyone agrees framing, the after all I've done guilt trip, the joke that stings but cannot be questioned without you being called sensitive. You can learn to ask for specifics, to translate feelings into requests, to take time, to leave. None of this requires a raised voice. Most of the power you need can be exercised at normal volume. If you want a simple practice, try this. When you feel rushed, ask for time. When you feel guilty, ask for facts. When you feel confused, ask for clarity in writing. When you feel flattered, ask for terms. When you feel afraid, ask whether the fear belongs to the present or to an old story. These questions are small keys. They do not lock people out. They open space for truth. The people who can stand with you in that space are your people. The people who cannot were never really with you. They were with your compliance. We are not going to build a life without influence. Influence is the air in the room. We breathe it in families, teams, friendships, markets, and movements. The aim is not to stop breathing. The aim is to breathe consciously, to know when someone else's exhale has filled your lungs, to decide when to hold, when to release, and when to step outside for fresh air. That is adult freedom. Not constant defiance, but constant awareness. As we close this first chapter, I want you to consider one gentle question. Where in your life do you feel small and strangely tired after ordinary conversations? That is a place to look, not with suspicion, but with care. Bring a little more light there. Slow your yes. Shorten your explanations. Ask one more question than you usually do. Notice what shifts when you do. You don't have to win battles to reclaim your mind. You only have to notice what is happening and choose with a little more time, a little more breath, and a little more loyalty to yourself. In that quiet, you will find that your choices become truly your own, and the world, still complex, still loud, becomes a place where you can walk with steady feet. Chapter 2. Inside the manipulator's mind, here is the paradox most people miss. The manipulator often looks warmest when they are coldest. The smile is real, the eye contact steady, the voice soothing. But the warmth is a tool, not a feeling. If that thought tightens your chest, breathe. We are not here to panic. We are here to understand, because understanding puts your hands back on the wheel of your own life. Manipulators crave control for the same reason most of us crave safety. Control quiets their inner noise. It promises certainty in a world that refuses to be predictable. Some learned early that love could be withdrawn, that approval had to be earned, that chaos lived in their home or in their head. They discovered a shortcut. If you can steer other people, what they feel, what they think, what they choose, then your own fear calms down for a while. Control becomes an emotional painkiller. It works quickly, but it also demands more and more. This is why the manipulator rarely stops at one small win. The moment they feel the relief of making you bend, the craving returns. They are not always trying to ruin you. They are trying to regulate themselves. That doesn't make the behavior harmless. It makes it explainable. And what we can explain, we can resist. Their sharpest instrument is emotional detachment. While you're feeling, they are measuring. While you explain, they are mapping. They watch how your face changes when a name is mentioned, how your voice softens when family comes up, how your shoulders relax when someone calls you reliable or generous or talented. Detachment is not a lack of emotion. It is an ability to mute emotion in the moment so strategy can move first. Imagine a chess player who can care deeply about winning but, during the game, feels nothing except the board. The manipulator brings that same stillness to conversations. It is why they seem preternaturally calm while you tie yourself into knots, trying to be fair. You think the calm means safety. Often, it means calculation. They find weaknesses the way a musician finds a melody, by listening for what resonates. If you fear being seen as selfish, they frame every boundary as a betrayal. If you need to be liked, they offer a special closeness in exchange for small compromises that grow larger. If you hate conflict, they raise the stakes until silence feels like the only path to peace. If you carry old shame, they press right where it lives and then offer relief only when you comply. None of these doors are flaws. They are normal human longings, belonging, harmony, meaning, love, used out of tune. The signal that someone is playing you is not that you feel deeply. It is that your values are being used against you at high speed. Slow down, and the music changes. What do they get out of it? The emotional payoff is layered. There is the thrill of prediction. You say the line they expected you to say, and it lands like a secret victory. There is the sense of superiority. They feel smarter, quicker, more awake than the rest of the room. There is the chemical hit, yes, real and physical, of getting away with it, dopamine bursting like confetti over the brain. And beneath it all, there is relief. For a few minutes, life feels ruled instead of random. Their inner child stops bracing. Their internal alarms go quiet. The problem is that the relief doesn't last, so they return to the lever. More pressure, more fog, more control. Like any addiction, tolerance builds. Soon, they need bigger maneuvers to feel the same calm. You will meet these minds in different costumes, and it helps to know the archetypes. Not to diagnose people, but to recognize patterns quickly. The charmer is sunlight on demand. They mirror your values so precisely that it feels like destiny. You find yourself saying, "No one has ever understood me like this." The charmer's strategy is to borrow your reflection until you forget where you end and they begin. Your counter move is to test with time. Charm thrives in speed. Truth grows in seasons. If the connection cannot survive questions, scheduling, or boundaries, it was never intimacy. It was choreography. The strategist is precision in a tailored suit. They are calm, efficient, patient. They frame outcomes so neatly that dissent looks like foolishness. You sense a courtroom in their cadence, each point ordered, each concession documented, each pause loaded with implied judgment. The strategist's power is your wish to seem reasonable. You defend yourself with facts they already priced into the plan. Your countermove is to reclaim the frame. Write terms, add third options, change timelines, ask, "What if we do nothing?" If the plan collapses when you slow it down, it was built on pressure, not logic. The narcissist is hunger disguised as importance. They need admiration the way lungs need air. When you praise them, the room glows. When you set limits, winter arrives. They rewrite the past to preserve control of the story. And if you threaten the story, you become the villain in the next chapter. The narcissist's lever is your empathy and your aversion to conflict. You will be asked to understand them while you abandon yourself. Your countermove is to stop feeding the story. Give short answers. Refuse circular debates. Set boundaries and let the tantrum happen without trying to fix it. Their rage is a weather pattern, not a verdict. The puppet master is the most dangerous because they blend all three at will. They can charm you in the lobby, out-argue you in the meeting, and guilt you in the car ride home. They cultivate confusion because confusion makes you reach for their certainty. When you cannot predict which version will walk in, you'll spend all your energy managing possibilities. And a tired person is easy to steer. Your countermove is to make your decisions where chaos cannot follow. In writing, with witnesses, after rest, puppet masters hate paper because paper doesn't wobble. Here is the hardest part to accept. You cannot love someone out of manipulation. You can make it less efficient. You can make it less rewarding. You can refuse to be the easy mark. But the engine that drives manipulation lives inside the manipulator, and only they can decide to turn it off. Your job is simpler and braver. It is to notice what happens to your clarity around a person and trust that data more than you trust their performance. Do you leave conversations with more choices or fewer? With a cleaner spine or a heavier head? With your words intact or with new doubts about what you just said? The answers are not dramatic. They are honest, and honesty is your exit. The practical work looks quiet from the outside. You speak more slowly. You ask for specifics. You replace sorry with no. You decline to answer questions framed to trap you. Do you think I'm a terrible person? Becomes, I'm not going to grade you. Here's what I will do. You do not explain a boundary 3 times. You state it once and pair it with a consequence you can actually carry out. You refuse deadlines that were invented to make you move. You never fight confusion in a live conversation. You pause and resume in writing. You take your time, even when your heart is racing, because pacing is power. If you want a small compass to keep in your pocket, use this. When you feel rushed, choose time. When you feel flattered, choose terms. When you feel guilty, choose facts. When you feel afraid, choose daylight. When you feel confused, choose silence until clarity returns. Each of these choices will frustrate a manipulator because each returns authorship to you. They will call you cold. You are not cold. You are clear. They will call you selfish. You are not selfish. You are sovereign. They will say you've changed, and they will be right. You have. As we close, I want to speak gently to the part of you that still hopes difficult people will turn tender if you can just find the right words. You were trained to fix storms with your body. You were trained to keep the table set, even when no one else brought food. You were trained to make yourself small, to keep the peace. But peace built on your disappearance is not peace. It is quiet. Control. Step back from that table. Let the silence say what needs to be said. Do not curse the manipulator, and do not excuse them. Simply choose yourself in slow, steady ways. Ask yourself tonight, around whom do I lose my pace, my questions, my ability to say, I'll decide tomorrow? That is not where your life should be decided. Move those decisions to safer rooms, rooms with time, paper, witnesses, and sleep. In those rooms, you will remember that love without control exists, that respect without fear exists, and that the power you were giving away to stay loved was always yours to keep. Chapter 3. The Science of Control. How the human mind can be programmed. Here's the unsettling truth. Most ideas don't arrive in our heads like lightning. They arrive like seeds slipped into our pockets, and by the time they bloom, we call them our own. If that makes you uneasy, good. Unease is the beginning of awareness, and awareness is how you take your mind back from anything that tries to borrow it without asking. Suggestion begins simply. Someone paints an image so lightly that it feels like nothing at all. A phrase, a question, a tiny story, and your attention brushes against it. The point is not to convince you, the point is to plant. The plan is patience. The seed returns in different soil. A headline that echoes the phrase, a friend repeating the same idea. A memory that suddenly fits the new frame. Repetition waters the seed. Emotion warms it. And soon you stop noticing the gardener. You only notice the green. This is why slogans work and why first impressions matter. The brain loves what feels familiar because familiar feels safe. We don't fall in love with arguments. We fall in love with what we have already met. Conditioning ties actions to feelings until your body moves before your mind debates. It is never announced. It is taught through small pairings that hardwire expectation. Praise follows speed, so you hurry. Silence follows a boundary, so you soften. Relief follows compliance, so you agree. Over time, your nervous system becomes predictive. It reaches for the behavior that has, in the past, ended the discomfort. This is why some of us apologize before anyone accuses us. Why we check our phones without meaning to. Why we say yes while our chest whispers no. The loop is simple. Cue, routine, reward. What grows the loop is repetition. What breaks it is awareness, plus a pause long enough to choose again. Emotional triggers are the accelerators. Logic prefers slow lanes and road signs. Emotion is a shortcut, through traffic. Fear shrinks choices to the nearest exit. Desire circles the one thing that promises relief. Shame turns every road into a mirror and asks, "What will they think of me if I don't?" Add urgency, and the map disappears. If you want to see this in your own life, watch how your decisions change at 3 moments. When you're tired, when you feel left out, and when you're offered a fast rescue from an uncomfortable feeling. Tired minds borrow certainty. Lonely hearts borrow belonging. Hurting bodies borrow anything that stops the hurt. Influence works best on borrowed states. The illusion of choice is elegant because it feels like freedom. You are offered 2 paths that both end in the same place. Do you want to schedule today or tomorrow? Not whether you want to schedule at all. Would you rather the extended plan or the bonus now? Not whether the deal makes sense. For you. When the frame is narrow, choosing inside it feels responsible. The antidote isn't to rebel against every option. It is to add one. Ask, what would it look like if we didn't do this? Or, what's the slow version? A real choice can survive more choices. When options multiply and anxiety drops, you've widened the frame. When options multiply and pressure rises, you've touched the mechanism. Subconscious cues steer us long before words arrive. A lowered voice makes you lean in. Leaning in makes you feel close. Feeling close makes you trust. A confident pause after a claim makes it sound heavier than the words alone. Touch on the elbow suggests intimacy. A uniform or a title suggests legitimacy. A crowd facing one direction suggests truth. None of this is magic. It is old biology, doing its job. In small tribes, proximity signaled safety, certainty signaled leadership, synchrony signaled belonging. Your cortex is modern. Your reflexes still wear animal skin. This doesn't mean you should fight your reflexes. It means You should name them. If you feel a sudden warmth toward a stranger's certainty, say quietly to yourself, "I am responding to confidence." If you feel a rush to match a room, say, "I am responding to synchrony." Naming does not erase the pull. It gives you space to steer while it pulls. Underneath these levers is simple neuroscience. Emotion leads, reason follows. When a stimulus carries threat or promise, your amygdala fires first. It prioritizes survival, fast, now, clear, and borrows resources from the slow, thoughtful regions of the brain. The prefrontal cortex, where you weigh trade-offs and imagine consequences, dims a little to conserve speed. This is why arguments made in fear sound so convincing and look so foolish later. Why a sales pitch feels different after sleep. Why a harsh message can make you forget your own values for an hour. You are not broken. You are a living system designed to move first and think after. Influence works by making move first feel necessary. Mastery begins when you learn to delay that movement by a minute, an hour, a night. There is a gentle way to see how suggestion grows in you without shaming yourself. Track a single thought from its seed to its bloom. Perhaps last week you heard someone say, "Everyone is talking about this opportunity." That evening you saw 3 posts about the same trend. The next day, a friend mentioned it and raised an eyebrow, and you felt the quiet nudge of not wanting to be the last person to know. 2 days later, you found yourself speaking about it as if it had always been obvious. No one tricked you. Your brain stitched a quilt from pieces it was handed. To reclaim authorship, you don't have to throw away the quilt. You only have to ask, which squares are mine and which were gifted? You can keep the warmth and still choose the pattern. Repetition is not only something others use on us, it is something we can use for ourselves. If the loop is cue, routine, reward, we can choose a different routine that ends with a better reward. Let the cue be the same, pressure. Let the new routine be a sentence. I decide after sleep. Let the reward be the feeling of waking with your thinking brain online, or let the cue be flattery. Let the routine be a breath and a question. Please send the terms. Let the reward be the calm of seeing in black and white what sounded golden in the air. This is not coldness, it is care for your future self. When you notice the illusion of choice, you do not have to accuse anyone. You can simply reframe the scene. I'm considering 3 paths, including waiting. When subconscious cues push you toward trust, add a verification step your body can't supply on its own. I like how this feels. Now, I'll check the facts. When shame tries to drag you faster than your values, slow the clock. If this requires me to betray myself to prove love, it isn't love. These are small sentences, but small sentences are code. Run them often enough, and your nervous system will learn that speed is not safety. Clarity is. There is a reason. Influence campaigns target tired, isolated, and overloaded people. Emotion already has the microphone in those states, so it is not indulgent to drink water, sleep, or step outside. It is defensive architecture. Fatigue makes the amygdala louder. Rest turns the volume down. Loneliness makes belonging bribes irresistible. Connection elsewhere makes them unnecessary. Overload makes simple narratives magnetic. Quiet makes complexity possible again. If you want to be hard to program, be kind to your biology. The mind is not a machine you bully into wisdom. It is a garden that grows whatever you tend. As you think about all this, resist the urge to become suspicious of every intention around you. Paranoia is just another kind of programming. Fear on loop. The point is not to doubt everyone, it is to trust yourself enough to ask for time, to ask for terms, to ask for truth in daylight. Most people will meet you there. The few who can't will teach you quickly who benefits when you move too fast. We end where we began, with seeds. Every day, thoughts are offered to you. Some will fit your soil and feed your life. Some will sprout fast and steal your light. You do not have to uproot the world to be free. You only have to become a more deliberate gardener. Before you accept an idea, notice how it arrived. Before you follow a feeling, ask which path it prefers and why. Before you choose between two doors, see if there is a third, or if standing, still for a night, is the real choice you needed. And tonight, when the house is quiet, ask yourself one gentle question. Where do I move fastest, and who taught me to call that speed smart? If you can slow that one place by a breath, you will feel the ground again. From there, you will remember that the mind is not a stage for other people's scripts. It is your home. Guard its keys. Fill its rooms with voices you trust. And when the next seed slips into your pocket, examine it in the sun before you plant. Chapter 4. The 10 Dark Persuasion Techniques. Used to control others. Here is a quiet shock most people learn too late. Control almost never arrives with a raised voice. It arrives with a soft tone, a thoughtful pause, a sense of urgency that feels like care, a story that asks you to doubt your own eyes. If you have ever left a conversation smaller than you entered it, not because you were wrong, but because you were bent, then you have met the techniques we are about to name. We will move through them like a night walk with a lantern. Slowly, gently, lighting corners you already felt in your bones. Gaslighting begins where certainty ends. It does not demand you believe a new truth. It asks you to stop trusting your memory. That never happened. You're being dramatic. Everyone thinks you misunderstood. You start checking the room for proof of what you lived, like a person patting their pockets for a key you know you placed by the door. The power of gaslighting is not the lie. It is the erosion. Soon you apologize for bringing up pain. Then you apologize for apologizing. The counter is not loudness. It is record-keeping. Write what happened when it is fresh. Speak to trusted witnesses. Put boundaries in writing. The goal isn't to win the argument. It is to anchor your reality so it cannot be drifted by someone else's wind. Emotional manipulation wears your values like a mask. Guilt arrives dressed as responsibility. Fear arrives dressed as wisdom. Affection arrives dressed as safety, but demands payment you did not agree to. After all I've done for you enters the room, and your body kneels to repay a debt you don't actually owe. The logic is simple. If they can make you feel a feeling on command, they can make you move on command. The way out is to translate emotion into a specific request. If someone deploys guilt, ask, "What exactly are you asking me to do?" If they deploy fear, ask for facts and timelines. If they deploy affection, ask for terms that respect both people. Real care survives clarity. Only leverage fears it. Mirroring is the friendly twin of manipulation. It feels like home because it reflects you. Your jokes land. Your stories are finished by a mouth that isn't yours. Your childhood hurt is echoed with perfect empathy. You think, at last, someone who really sees me. And sometimes it is real. But the dark use of mirroring is to build trust so quickly that your guard falls before the ground is tested. A person who mirrors you can move you because they have become a shape you long to hold. The antidote is small and unfashionable. Time. Test with a slow calendar. Introduce gentle disagreement and see if the reflection cracks. Intimacy grows roots when it meets friction. Imitation washes off in the first rain, anchoring links feelings to cues in a way that bypasses thought. A certain word, a song, a place, a gesture becomes a switch. Praise anchored to your speed makes you hurry. Affection anchored to gift-giving makes you buy. Calm anchored to their presence makes you crave their company even when the facts argue. Otherwise, you think you are choosing the person. Often you are choosing the feeling they reliably deliver. The skill is to name the feeling out loud. I feel calm when I sit in this car. Let me check if this deal makes sense outside the leather smell. Separate the cue from the choice. Keep the feeling if it serves you. Don't rent your judgment to it. Scarcity is the fire alarm of persuasion. Last chance. Only 3 left. Everyone is getting in now. Your nervous system hears danger and moves without checking where the smoke is coming from. Scarcity works not because the item is worthy, but because the body hates missing out more than it loves choosing well. When scarcity rings, borrow time from your future self. Step outside, drink water. Text the one friend who never rushes you. If the offer cannot survive a night, it was never for your benefit. The right door will still be there after you put your shoes on. Isolation is not always a locked room. Sometimes it is a door that never stops squeaking until you close it yourself. You're told that outsiders don't understand, that friends are jealous, that family always ruins things. Suddenly, your only reliable interpreter of reality is the person who benefits from translating it. The world shrinks. Opinions flatten. You confuse loneliness for loyalty. The counter is to keep 2 or 3 windows open. Always. People who are allowed to see the full picture, not the edited cut. If someone punishes you for having witnesses, you're not in a relationship. You're in a program. Triangulation turns human hearts into a rigged game show. A third person is introduced. An ex, a rival, a co-worker, and comparison becomes the puppet string. Jealousy rises, competition starts, and your energy is spent proving your worth instead of checking your treatment. Triangulation makes you forget to ask the only question that matters. Do I like who I am becoming here? If the answer is no, set the triangle down. You are not a contestant. You are a person. Walk off the stage, and the prizes lose their shine. Intermittent reinforcement is the casino of the soul. Not every pull pays. Not every call is kind. Not every plan follows through. But sometimes, just enough to keep you hooked. The lights flash, and you feel chosen. The unpredictability is the addiction. Your brain attaches hope to chaos and calls it love, or opportunity, or destiny. This is why it is so hard to leave inconsistency. It feels like surrendering a lottery ticket whose numbers might hit tomorrow. The way out is to redefine win. Make your reward the predictability of your own behavior. You leave when your non-negotiables are broken twice. You answer once and then move on. You measure love by steady presence, not dramatic rescue. Certainty is not boring. Certainty is breath. Authority triggers our old tribal code. Uniforms, titles, confident tones, expensive rooms, the weight of a logo on thick paper. Our bodies learned long ago that these signals meant safety or danger. So we respond quickly. We call people sir who haven't earned it. We quiet our questions in the presence of a podium. Dark persuasion uses this by staging legitimacy. The answer is not to disrespect authority. it is to verify it. Ask for credentials. Ask for data. Ask for the small, boring specifics that performance cannot supply. Real authority is transparent. Costume wilts under questions. The fear loop is the final net. It keeps people small by making the world feel large and threatening, and then offering one narrow path to safety. You are told that disaster waits outside the relationship, outside the team, outside the leader's vision. Your imagination is recruited to build prisons from what if. Every time you try to stand up, a new scenario pushes you back into the chair. To break the loop, fear needs light and distance. Name the fear precisely. Not, everything will fall apart, but, if I leave, I might struggle financially for 3 months. Now you can plan. Now you can ask for help. Now the monster has edges, and the room has doors. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to choose while fear speaks. These techniques do not always arrive labeled as harm. Many begin as clumsy attempts to get needs met, for closeness, for certainty, for status, for survival. But intent does not erase impact, and impact is what we must protect ourselves from. The good news is quiet, but real. You do not need superpowers to be hard to control. You need a slower yes, a shorter explanation, a written record, a friend who tells you the truth, a body you treat gently so it can tell you when something feels off. You need 5 sentences you can reach for under pressure. I'll decide tomorrow. Please put that in writing. That doesn't work for me. What happens if I say no? I will get back to you after I speak with someone I trust. Power grows in the space those sentences create. As we close, ask yourself where these techniques touch your life most softly, because soft is where they hide best. Do you doubt your memory around a particular person? Do you move faster when praise is offered? Do you shrink when a third name enters the room? Do you grab at offers that expire by midnight? You don't have to fix everything tonight. Choose one string to cut, one sentence to practice, one window to open. The world will not become kinder because you understand it, but you will become steadier. And in that steadiness, you will notice a beautiful reversal. The same mind that was once easy to steer becomes a place that chooses with care, gives with clarity, and loves without surrendering itself to the hands of anyone who learned to pull. Chapter 5. The Dark Triad. The 3 faces of manipulative power. Here is the unsettling paradox. Some of the most magnetic people you'll ever meet are the ones who feel the least. They can read a room like poetry and move hearts like levers, not because they are full of warmth, but because they are fluent in need. If that sounds harsh, breathe with me. We are not here to hate anyone. We are here to understand the patterns so you can keep your dignity, your time, and your peace. Think of the Dark Triad as 3 masks that sometimes live on the same face. Narcissism is the hunger for admiration, the constant need for a mirror that says, "You are the brightest star." Machiavellianism is the cold chessboard, the careful plan that sees people as pieces and endings as excuses. Psychopathy is the absence of breaks, dominance without empathy, the thrill of risk with no ache for consequence. Most humans carry a whisper of these traits on a bad day. The danger begins when the whisper becomes a lifestyle, when a person learns that control is easier than honesty, and that image is more profitable than intimacy. The narcissist does not always look grand. Sometimes they look fragile, almost childlike. always one step away from either triumph or despair. They feed on admiration, because admiration stabilizes their shaky inner world. When you praise them, the clouds part. When you set limits, the weather turns. They will charm you with attention, because attention feels like love, and you will want to keep the sunshine going. But the price rises quietly. Laugh at their jokes. Align with their stories. Hold their reflection steady. In love, the narcissist leads with intensity, promising a future by Tuesday. In leadership, they sell vision in bright colors, then punish dissent as betrayal. As an influencer, they are masters of the spotlight, curating a myth that consumes any facts that do not glow. You recognize them not by the beauty of their speeches, but by the small wreckage around them. Friends who walk on eggshells, teams that burn out, partners who apologize for asking basic needs to be met. Your defense is boundaries spoken once and honored by you, even when they are not honored by them. Short conversations, fewer explanations. No debates about your reality. Praise what is real, withdraw from what is theatrical, and measure love by how you are treated when you say no. The Machiavellian rarely raises their voice. You will not find them arguing in the street. You will find them adjusting the streetlights. Strategy is their oxygen. They collect favors, plant narratives, and keep receipts in drawers you cannot see. They are polite because politeness looks like morality while their plan matures. In relationships, they choose partners who expand their access, status, money, networks, and call it destiny. In leadership, they build alliances with people who are useful now and cut ties when usefulness ends, with a note of regret that sounds like ethics. As influencers, they create controversy. They can monetize and distance themselves from the fire while counting the views. You know you've met them when your world becomes a series of small compromises that make sense one by one, but leave you far from yourself when added up. Your defense is process and paper. Put agreements in writing. Ask for terms, timelines, and definitions. Refuse to be rushed into just this once. Test loyalty by how they act when you have nothing to give them but your honesty. Strategy cannot stand sunlight. Bring decisions into daylight, and the gears show. Psychopathy is a word that scares people because they imagine a movie villain. In ordinary life, it often looks like charm without conscience. There is boldness, quickness, a willingness to take risks that makes others hesitate. It can be exciting, intoxicating even, to be close to that fearlessness. But beneath the thrill is a chilling fact. Your feelings are data, not sacred. In love, the psychopath gives you the high and the crash with no apology. They map your needs and use them like buttons. In leadership, they cut without bleeding. Downsizing is a game played with numbers that do not have faces. As influencers, they ride trends until they break and step off smiling, leaving the audience dizzy and grateful for the ride. You recognize them by the way harm never seems to land. There is always a reason, a scapegoat, a new target. Your defense is distance and consequence. Do not explain your pain to a person who experiences your pain as an obstacle. Protect your finances, your time, and your stories. If you must engage, do so where there are rules, witnesses, and clocks that do not bend. These traits blend in leaders, lovers, and public figures because the world rewards confidence, speed, and certainty. Audiences crave someone who looks like they know. Teams crave a voice that sounds like a map. Lonely hearts crave a hand that feels like home. The Triad offers all three: admiration on tap, strategy that removes doubt, daring that electrifies the air. but the bill arrives in small print. Your needs become background noise. Your boundaries become negotiable. Your reality requires permission. You know the bill has come due when you leave conversations foggy, when your standards slide to avoid conflict, when your life feels like a performance scored by someone else's applause. Recognizing these patterns is not an invitation to diagnose strangers or to throw labels at everyone who disappoints you. It is permission to believe your body when it flinches, and your mind when it notices the math doesn't add up. The narcissist will tell you your negativity ruins the magic. The Machiavellian will call your questions inefficient. The psychopath will call your limits weakness. Translate their accusations back into clarity. Negativity is discernment. Questions are stewardship. Limits are self-respect. Then act accordingly. Ask for time when urgency is the lever. Ask for terms when flattery is the sugar. Ask for witnesses when the story keeps changing. Ask for space when your nervous system says, "I cannot think here." There is also the mirror work none of us want to do. Where do you feed on praise to calm your doubts? Where do you make small plans that treat people as means to an end? Where do you choose thrill over care and call it living fully? Honesty here is not self-punishment. It is preventative medicine. When you tend your own hunger for admiration, you are harder to flatter into foolishness. When you face your own coldness, you stop excusing it in others as just business. When you honor empathy as a non-negotiable, you recognize relationships that run without it as machines you should not enter. Defense, in practice, is simple and unglamorous. It is sleeping on decisions that make your heart race. It is keeping a friend who tells you when you are glowing for the wrong reasons. It is having a small list of non-negotiables you do not trade. Honesty in conflict, respect for time, financial, transparency, kindness without a leash. It is noticing patterns over promises and actions over arcs. It is allowing people to be disappointed when manipulation fails and refusing to rescue them from that feeling. Yes, you will be called cold, but you will sleep. Yes, you will lose some circles, but you will keep your center. Yes, some doors will close, but the doors that remain will open into rooms where your voice does not have to compete with a myth. I want to leave you with a quiet kindness. You don't have to out-argue anyone to be free. You don't have to prove the mask is a mask, or collect evidence for a trial that will never be held. You only have to become a careful steward of your attention and a loyal friend to your own boundaries. Tonight, ask yourself one gentle question. Around whom do I feel the need to perform to stay safe? And what would happen if I stopped performing for a week? Notice who reaches for you with respect and who reaches for their levers. Notice how your body feels in silence, how your thoughts clear when urgency fades, how different your life looks when admiration is a gift rather than a leash. Power will always be part of human life, but there is a power that makes you smaller and a power that makes you real. Choose the second, even if it costs you the first. In that choice, you become the kind of person who cannot be quietly controlled, and the kind of leader, lover, and voice that other people can safely follow, without losing themselves. Chapter 6. Psychological Warfare, Tactics of Mind Domination. Here is the unsettling truth we keep learning in slow motion. Minds are rarely conquered with force. They are redirected with stories. The person who can name the scene, pace the conversation, and decide where the light falls does not need to shout. They only need you to accept the frame. If that frightens you, let it also steady you. Because once you see how the frame is built, you can step outside it and choose your own view. Mental framing is the quiet art of giving reality a border and a title before anyone else does. Call a risky move visionary, and resistance looks small-minded. Call a delay quality control, and waiting becomes a virtue. Call a question negativity, and honest doubt sounds like sabotage. The first story to arrive often becomes the truth people defend. This is why seasoned persuaders move fast in the opening minutes of a meeting or the first days of a crisis. They set the definitions, and definitions become rails. To defend yourself, listen for the labels. Ask, what else could this be? Say the other names out loud. A budget cut can be discipline, but it can also be avoidance. A grand promise can be leadership, but it can also be theatrical certainty. When you rename, you regain altitude. From altitude, you can see paths the first frame hid. The foot in the door effect is disarmingly simple. A small yes makes the next yes easier. You agree to a brief call, then a demo, then a trial run, then a commitment that somehow arrived disguised as courtesy. In relationships, you accept a small disrespect because you're tired, then a larger one because things have been stressful. And within months, your standards have slid like furniture you swore you'd never move. This is the compliance cascade. Each step justified by the last, the destination reached without a single dramatic leap. There is nothing wrong with saying yes when a yes is clean. The danger is in saying yes to avoid the discomfort of a no. A good test is to ask yourself, if this next request had been the first, would I agree? If the answer is no, the cascade is steering you. Step out gently. You do not need to accuse. You can say, this is as far as I go, and let silence do what arguments cannot. Distraction and overload are the oldest weapons because tired minds are generous minds. The brain has a finite budget for attention and working memory. When the ETEE screen flashes, the inbox fills, the room buzzes, and the timeline scrolls, your defenses soften. You borrow other people's conclusions because building your own is heavy work. Persuaders who understand this will flood you with details when the question is simple, and give you a single glowing headline when the question is complex. They will create noise and then offer the quiet of a ready-made decision. You will be tempted to say yes just to stop thinking. Resist the false rescue. Slow the pace. Ask for the one-page version. Ask for the summary in 3 lines. Ask what happens if you do nothing for a week. If the room punishes you for asking to breathe, you've learned what was being sold. Not a plan, but your compliance. Contradiction is a subtler blade. When people are presented with opposing claims in quick succession, cognition stalls. The mind hates unresolved tension, so it reaches for the nearest authority or the most confident voice to resolve it. Manipulators stage this by mixing praise with threats, affection with withdrawal, certainty with sudden doubt. The goal isn't to convince you of a single truth. The goal is to keep you dizzy until you accept their balance as the only steady surface. You can neutralize this by holding contradictions without rushing to closure. Say, both can be true. You mean well, and this is harmful. Both can be true. This offer is exciting, and the terms are unclear. When you can carry 2 truths, you don't need an outside referee. Your thinking remains yours. Silent control is influence that hides its fingerprints. The best operators do not want credit for moving you. Credit brings scrutiny. They prefer you to feel spontaneous, to believe your shift was internal, your idea was original, your change of heart arrived in the shower like a revelation. They seed a phrase in a meeting and let a different voice speak it later. They advise a leader in private and let public opinion discover what was decided. They shape the choices on the table so that whatever you pick serves the same end. Notice the pattern. Goals reached without visible pushes, rooms arriving at the same conclusion, as if by magic. Your own mind warming to something you dismissed last week. Ask yourself, what has been made easy for me to believe, and who benefits? The answer is not always sinister. Sometimes ease is earned, but the question keeps you awake while the theater plays. The tactics work best together. A frame sets the story, a small yes starts the slide, noise makes you lean on the guide, contradiction keeps you unsteady, and the absence of obvious pressure protects the operator from blame. This is why psychological warfare rarely feels like war. It feels like relief, like belonging, like being chosen by someone who seems to know where we're going. To guard your mind, you do not need paranoia. You need rituals that return you to yourself when rooms are loud and timelines are tight. A glass of water before you answer. A rule that you do not decide on the spot when the stakes touch your money, your health, your relationships, or your name. A habit of asking for the alternative that the frame forgot. A friend who is not impressed by urgency and will ask you, "What's the hurry?" until the spell breaks. There is kindness in remembering why these tactics work. We all want meaning, and meaning arrives fastest inside a confident frame. We all want to be agreeable, and a small yes feels like respect. We all get tired, and an offered shortcut feels like care. We all dislike tension, and contradiction begs to be resolved. We all enjoy feeling autonomous, and silent control flatters us with the illusion of independence. Seeing your own wiring is not self-blame, it is self-compassion. When you know your levers, you are gentle with yourself for having them, and careful about who is allowed to pull. If you lead, learn the clean version of these tools. Frame with transparency, name your assumptions, and invite better ones. Ask for small commitments that serve both sides and make it safe to stop. Reduce overload by summarizing fairly and sharing the trade-offs you wish you didn't have to admit. Honor contradictions in your team without forcing fake consensus. And keep your influence visible. If your idea is good, it can survive being traced back to you. Clean power doesn't hide. It explains. And if you love someone who plays these games, remember that your best move is not to beat them at their craft. It is to change the terms of engagement. Do less live arguing and more written clarity. Do fewer late-night decisions and more morning reviews. Do fewer explanations of why you feel what you feel, and more statements of what you will and will not do. People who want honest connection will rise to meet those boundaries. People who wanted control will call your steadiness cold. Let them. Cold is simply heat, not donated to the wrong fire. As we close, bring your attention back to your own pace. Notice where you rush without knowing why. Notice which labels you accept because they save you from thinking. Notice how much of your day is spent reacting to noise that someone else profits from. Then, make one small repair. Rename one thing honestly. Replace one automatic yes with "I'll decide tomorrow." Open one window of silence in a crowded hour and feel your mind return to you. Psychological warfare is real, but so is psychological sovereignty. It looks like a person who can listen without being drafted, consider without being cornered, and choose without shame. Be that person for yourself first. From there, you will be impossible to quietly dominate, and calm enough to lead others out of frames that never fit them in the first place. Chapter 7. Everyday Manipulation. How you're being controlled. Without knowing it, the most dangerous spell isn't the one you see. It's the one you live inside without noticing. We wake, we scroll, we buy, we vote, we agree, and we call it ordinary life. But ordinary life is now a stage designed by invisible hands, and the lines you speak often echo words that were placed in your mouth by 1,000 small nudges. If that makes you uneasy, let it. Unease is the first clean breath after a long dream. Look at a simple morning. Before you have language, your thumb already knows the path. Unlock, refresh, feed. The colors are not random. Red badges demand attention. Autoplay floods you with motion so you don't choose what to see. Your eyes surrender before your mind wakes up. Marketing is not only selling objects anymore, it sells states. It offers relief from loneliness in the shape of a subscription, significance in the texture of a sneaker, control in the weight of a phone that listens when the world does not. The message is gentle and relentless. You are almost complete. 1. More purchase, and the gap will close. You are almost free. One more plan, and the worry will stop. You are almost loved. One more upgrade, and they will finally notice you. And because the offer is wrapped in your taste, your history, your location, your sleep pattern, it feels personal. That feeling is the product. Politics knows this rhythm too. It speaks to our fear of exclusion and our hunger for belonging. Then paints a simple map. We are the good ones. They are a threat. The future is a cliff. Follow me. Policy becomes theater. Nuance becomes weakness. Outrage becomes oxygen. Campaigns don't need your understanding. They need your alignment. So they repeat a handful of phrases until your mouth knows them better than your mind does. They show you images arranged like chords, and your emotions play on cue. You are not being asked to think. You are being asked to choose sides. The quieter truth is that sides are built to keep you busy, while decisions you would care about are made in hallways you never see. Media is the amplifier. It does not ask, "Is this true?" first. It asks, "Will this travel?" Because what travels profits. Conflict travels. Scandal travels. Fear travels. Your nervous system was forged in a world where a rustle in the grass could be a snake. So you attend to threats. The modern world learns to speak snake. Every headline becomes a hiss. Every day becomes an emergency. Your baseline shifts from concern to chronic alertness, and in that state, you will consume anything that promises certainty. Certainty has a sound: short, loud, absolute. The problem is that reality does not live in absolutes. So the more certain the voices become, the less reality reaches you. You live in a high-resolution tunnel where the colors are intense and the field of view is narrow. And outside the tunnel, the world goes on with its quiet complexity, unseen. Social media is the marketplace of your attention, and you are both, customer and product. Platforms study your pauses the way a hunter studies tracks. They know how long your eyes rest on anger and how gently your thumb slows down for beauty. They learn what face makes you feel less alone and what sentence keeps you from closing the app. Then they build you a private universe where the path of least resistance is also the path of most profit. Your feed is a mirror that flatters and a funnel that narrows. It repeats your beliefs back to you until disagreement feels like violence, and it sprinkles in just enough novelty to keep your dopamine climbing the hill that never ends. You think you are choosing. Mostly, you are being chosen by a design that rewards your impulses and taxes your reflection. This is the invisible hand of algorithmic control. Systems that do not command you, but contour you. They shape what you encounter, how often you encounter it, and what becomes normal by repetition. They predict your future and, by predicting, help create it. Search engines nudge which facts are top, then those facts shape public opinion, which shapes coverage, which returns to the top again. Music apps guess your taste and keep you close to it until your taste stops traveling. Video platforms learn the stories that hook your nervous system and feed you the same arc in different clothes. The danger is not that algorithms are evil, it's that they are efficient. Efficiency is wonderful when you want socks. It is dangerous when you want a mind. Underneath these systems is the oldest conditioning of all: fear and desire. Fear shrinks the world to safety and enemies. Desire shrinks the world to reward and roots. If a message can wake fear, it can narrow your choices to the nearest exit. If a message can light desire, it can narrow your choices to the nearest pleasure. This is why advertising toggles between "you are not enough" and "you could be extraordinary by Friday." This is why political stories toggle between "they will ruin everything" and "we can fix everything by Tuesday." The toggling keeps you oscillating between alarm and hope, and in that oscillation, you do not stop to ask, who does this pace serve? Your biology becomes a road where other people's traffic moves fast. Mass hypnosis is not a man with a watch. It is a population living in the same trance. Many eyes fixed on the same moving spectacle. Many bodies trained to the same reflexes. Many minds relieved to outsource the pain of uncertainty to a voice that promises to know. The script is simple. Keep them busy. Keep them scared. Keep them wanting. Keep them entertained. Keep them divided. And keep the quiet places rare, because in quiet places people remember their own questions. In quiet places, the spell weakens. Breaking free sounds dramatic, but it feels ordinary. It is a set of small choices that return your mind to you. You do not need to delete your life and flee to a cabin. You need to renegotiate your attention with gentle stubbornness. Begin with the morning. Delay the feed by 15 minutes, and watch what your thoughts do when no one is steering them. Give your nervous system a different first input: water, light, breath, a page of your own words before you read anyone else's. Then change how you take in the world. Read one full article instead of 20 headlines. Watch a long conversation instead of 6 clips. Ask for the source before you share the quote that fits your rage too perfectly. Notice how the temperature drops when you step away from the algorithm. Long enough for boredom to visit. Boredom is not your enemy. Boredom is the doorway back to self-directed interest. When you scroll, make a pact with yourself. Like less, save less, share less, and notice what endures when it is not rewarded. Curate deliberately. Let 3 creators who challenge you stay. Let 10 creators who agitate you without nourishing you go. If a page treats your fear like a leash, unfollow. If a page treats your hope like a vending machine, unfollow. If a page treats your complexity like a flaw, unfollow. It will not starve the machine, but it will feed your mind. And your mind is what you must protect if you want a life that feels like it belongs to you. In news, practice time dilation. Most events do not require your reaction in the first hour. Let the dust settle. Let corrections arrive. Let context gather. You will miss the thrill of being first, and you will gain the peace of being accurate. Talk to people who do not live in your tunnel. Ask them what they see from their road. Listen long enough to notice what you were never shown. Not every difference can be bridged, but many differences are only the edges of the same landscape. Algorithms do not care about your community. They care about your engagement. Community takes more effort. Build it anyway. If you can, reclaim small pieces of analog life. A paper list, a walk without earbuds, a meal without screens. Slowness here is not nostalgia. It is maintenance. Your brain resets in silence. Your heart recalibrates when it is not being sold to. Your judgment grows sharp when it is not outsourced to trending consensus. And when you re-enter the noise, you will feel the tug of manipulation with more precision. You will see the alarm that is marketed as urgency, the flattery that is marketed as belonging, the outrage that is marketed as meaning. You will not become cynical. You will become selective. I want to leave you with something simple and stubborn. You do not have to be the most informed person in the room to be the most awake. You need a few clean habits that keep you sovereign while the world tries, gently and constantly, to recruit your reflexes for profit and power. Ask yourself tonight, where do I lose time and call it rest, lose money and call it taste, lose curiosity and call it certainty? And what is one small way I can return those to myself tomorrow? Maybe it is a morning without the glowing rectangle. Maybe it is a question you ask before you click. Maybe it is the courage to say, I don't know yet, while the crowd shouts, that doubt is disloyalty. The spell of modern life is powerful, but not absolute. When you slow your yes, widen your view, and go quiet long enough to hear your own mind, you will remember that the most radical act in a world built to program you is simple: to think with your own head, to feel with your own heart, and to choose, without apology, what deserves your one life's attention. Chapter 8. Defense Mechanisms. Protecting yourself from mind control. Here is the paradox that saves lives. The moment you admit you can be influenced is the moment you become hard to control. People who believe they are immune are the easiest to steer. People who stay curious about their own minds are the ones who notice the hand on the wheel. If that truth stings, let it sharpen you. This chapter is not about fear. It is about building a calm, durable freedom inside a noisy world. Awareness begins in the body before it reaches the mind. You think you spot manipulation with clever arguments, but most of the time you feel it as a change in your breath, a tightening in your jaw, a fog that rolls into your thoughts exactly when someone pushes for a quick yes. Learn your early signals, the way a sailor learns the wind. If your shoulders lift, if your sentences get longer and more apologetic, if you feel rushed for reasons that are not clear, then pause. That pause is not laziness or rudeness. It is self-protection. Awareness is simply this: noticing your inner weather faster than someone else can rename the sky for you. When you notice, you do not need to accuse. You can say, give me a moment, and step back into yourself. Emotional grounding is how you keep your hands steady while everyone else reaches for your steering wheel. Think of it as a small ritual that brings your nervous system home. Feel your feet on the floor. Unclench your jaw. Drop your shoulders. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Look for 3 ordinary objects in the room and name them quietly. This is not magic. It is biology. When your breath slows, your alarm system lowers its volume and your thinking brain comes back online. Grounding also sounds like simple sentences. I hear what you are saying. I need time to think. Please put it in writing. Those phrases cool the temperature without giving ground. When someone tries to yank you into fear or shame, grounding says, I will not leave my center to meet you in your storm. Reframing is the art of taking back your mental camera. Manipulation lives on narrow frames. 2 options, 1 narrative, 1 villain, 1 deadline. Reframing widens the shot so you can see what was cropped out. If you are told, "If you loved me, you would do this," you can reframe to, "Love and boundaries can exist together." If a leader says, "Everyone agrees," you can reframe to, "Agreement without questions is loyalty, not wisdom." If your mind whispers, "If I say no, I will lose them," you can reframe to, "If I must disappear to keep them, I never had them." Reframing is not positive thinking. It is accurate thinking. It returns choice to places where pressure made choice feel impossible. The moment you put new language on the scene, your brain finds new exits. Logic is a kind companion. When emotions try to draft you into quick compliance, logic does not mean coldness. It means sequence. What are the facts I can verify? What is being claimed, and what would have to be true for this claim to stand? What are the costs if I'm wrong? The minute you name the claim and the cost, fog begins to lift. Emotional manipulation wants you to move first and think later. Let logic flip that order. Write things down. Ask for numbers. Ask for dates. Ask what happens if you do nothing for a week. Ask for the smallest version of the request and see if the urgency survives. You can even make a tiny rule for your future self. Decisions that touch my money, my health, my reputation, or my relationships are never made in the same hour they are presented. You do not need to be brilliant to be free. You need a few rules that protect you when your feelings are loud. Sometimes the trap is not a person, it is a pattern. You may have learned to equate goodness with instant agreement, connection with constant availability, love with self-erasure, competence with never needing help. Those lessons made sense in old rooms. They are too small for your life now. Reclaiming autonomy means you start measuring your worth by the right metrics. You are not kinder because you say yes faster. You are not wiser because you never change your mind. You are not stronger because you carry loads that are breaking you. Autonomy feels like space around your thoughts. It sounds like shorter answers and fewer excuses. It looks like you living 1 inch further inside your own values, especially when someone rolls their eyes because their favorite lever stopped working. There is a quiet courage in asking for time. Time reveals. Pressure hides. If a person, a pitch, or a plan cannot survive a night of sleep, it was not meant to protect you. When you ask for time and the other person's response is punishment, sulking, threats, ridicule, you have received a gift. Their truth, unwrapped. Believe it. Ground yourself and do not rush to fix their discomfort. Their discomfort is not your compass. Your compass is whether you can still hear yourself think. You may worry that boundaries will make you hard or lonely. The opposite is true. Clear edges allow real closeness. When people know where you stand, they can approach without stepping on landmines. When you stop performing yeses, you do not mean you make room for the relationships that would never ask you to vanish to be loved. Boundaries do not end intimacy. They end the performance that pretended to be intimacy. Awareness also grows through witness. Keep 2 or 3 people in your life who are allowed to see the unedited version of your choices. They are the ones you can call when your chest is tight and your mind is spinning. Tell them the facts, not the theater. Ask them what they see that you might be missing. Invite them to ask you, what would you advise your younger self right now? It is amazing how quickly your wisdom returns when you set it outside the pressure of the moment. If your world punishes you for having witnesses, step out of that world. Honest rooms do not require secrecy to function. There will be days when your mouth knows the old script better than your new rules. You will say yes and feel the drop in your stomach. You will argue with someone who lives on chaos and leave the call shaking. You will scroll until your brain feels sticky and call it rest. Do not shame yourself. Shame is a leash, and you are building a life without leashes. Instead, repair quickly. Send the follow-up. I've reconsidered. I can't commit to that. End the debate. We're going in circles. I'm stepping away. Put the phone down and walk once around the block. Repair is sovereignty in motion. You do not need a perfect day to be free. You need the next right move. If you lead others, practice the clean version of influence, so you never become the problem you are trying to escape. Tell people your assumptions and what would change your mind. Welcome questions without punishing them. Share the trade-offs you would rather hide. Give people time when the choice will touch their lives. Keep your promises small and your accountability large. The people you lead will not remember your speeches as clearly as they remember how safe they felt to disagree with you. Safety is the foundation where real influence becomes ethical power. There is a small sentence I want you to keep for the rest of your life. I choose at my pace. It is not an excuse to avoid action. It is a method to keep action honest. When your pace returns, your mind returns. When your mind returns, you can look at a high-pressure room and see it the way a diver sees the surface. Close, reachable, inevitable. You will not drown where you used to drown. You will push once and rise. As we close, place a hand on your chest for a breath. Ask yourself one gentle question. Where do I most often abandon myself? And what would the smallest act of loyalty look like there tomorrow? Maybe it is writing what happened while it is still clear. Maybe it is turning one apology into a boundary. Maybe it is asking for the terms instead of thanking someone for the compliment. Maybe it is choosing a walk over a scroll so your nervous system can remember what quiet feels like. Freedom is not dramatic. It is a string of small, faithful choices that add up to a life only you could have chosen. Keep your awareness warm, your grounding simple, your reframing honest, your logic nearby, and your autonomy within reach. In time, you will notice something beautiful. The same world that once felt like a maze will become a landscape. And in doing that landscape, you will move with steady feet, unhurried and unhidden, shaping your days with a mind that belongs, finally and fully, to you. Chapter 9. The Ethics of Power. When influence turns dangerous. Here is the paradox at the heart of every human relationship. The more skill you gain at moving people, the more dangerous you become, to them and to yourself. Power feels like clarity, like speed, like the room finally making sense. But without a compass, the same force that can rescue can also quietly rearrange other people's lives to fit your needs. If that makes you hesitate, good. Hesitation is a form of care, and care is where ethical power begins. The moral line between persuasion and corruption is thinner than we like to admit. Persuasion tells the truth and accepts your freedom. Corruption edits the truth and spends your freedom for you. Persuasion offers reasons and room. Corruption offers pressure and fog. Persuasion survives sunlight. Corruption needs a dim corner. We cross the line the moment outcome matters more than consent, the moment we use a person's blind spot as a shortcut instead of as a responsibility. It does not look like a villain's grin. It looks like a small rationalization. They'll thank me later. This is for their own good. I know what's best. We tell ourselves we are saving time. What we spend instead is trust. And trust is the oxygen of any bond that hopes to last. Even good intentions can make a mess, because intention does not cancel impact. Love can become a leash if you tug it every time you are afraid. Leadership can become theater if you hide trade-offs to keep admiration warm. Teaching can become indoctrination if you reward agreement more than understanding. The slide is gradual. You get praised for results, so you start to prefer the lever that works fastest. You get tired of explaining complexity, so you sell simplicity at the cost of truth. You dislike conflict, so you shape rooms where dissent feels impolite. Then one day, you discover you've surrounded yourself with people who tell you what you want to hear, and you call it loyalty. You didn't wake up to be a tyrant. You napped through a handful of small choices, and authority rearranged itself around your comfort. This is why ethical influence requires rituals of humility. You need regular reminders that you, too, are biased, and that ease is not the same as right. Temptation lives in power because power is a relief, a temporary end to the ache of uncertainty. When people follow you, your anxious questions go quiet. Am I enough? Do I belong? Does this matter? A leader's calendar can anesthetize a leader's fear. Applause can soothe an old wound. Control can feel like competence, even when it is only choreography. The brain rewards this with chemicals that say, "Do that again." So we do. We speak a little louder. We skip the boring disclosures. We cut a corner because we see the big picture. Addiction is not always about substances. It can be about certainty. The antidote is discomfort by design. Invite questions that are expensive to answer. Publish the numbers that make you look merely human. Sit in rooms where your title buys you nothing. Ask someone you trust to tell you where you are hard to follow. If power is a sweet fog, these habits are open windows. Ethical influence sounds less heroic than the myths we're sold, but it builds lives that don't collapse in scandal. It begins with motive. Use knowledge to protect, not to exploit. If you know how scarcity drives decisions, reduce false urgency rather than creating it. If you know how praise can shape behavior, praise effort and honesty rather than compliance. If you know how framing can tilt reality, tell people where the frame comes from and what it hides. Ethical influence does not pretend to be neutral. It reveals its interests and invites correction. It is not soft. It is disciplined. It refuses to win in ways that require people to be smaller to stay near you. There is also the simple dignity of informed consent. In sales, it means naming the downside before the contract does. In teaching, it means showing your sources, your gaps, and your assumptions, and allowing students to disagree without being punished. In love, it means letting no change the story instead of changing the definition of love. In leadership, it means explaining the trade-off you'd rather hide and letting people opt out if the cost is not one they can afford. When consent is real, you will lose some easy victories. You will gain something rarer. Relationships that don't depend on confusion to function. The paradox of control is that domination weakens the very people you need strong. If you grip outcomes too tightly, your team stops taking risks. Your partner stops telling the truth. Your community learns to act for your approval rather than from their integrity. You can have obedience or you can have growth. You rarely keep both. To truly lead, you must become a gardener instead of a puppeteer. You create conditions where clarity is rewarded, where disagreement is safe, where mistakes are reported early, because mistakes are how systems learn. You let pace be shaped by reality, rather than by your impatience. You let talent breathe even when it complicates your plan. The room will be messier than the one you can control alone. It will also be smarter, kinder, and more durable than any empire of fear. Ethics, at ground level, is a handful of small choices repeated under pressure. Do you disclose the caveats that make your pitch less shiny? Do you allow someone to keep dignity when they say no to you? Do you separate your need to feel powerful from your duty to be clear? Do you treat people's attention, this finite, sacred resource, as a gift to steward or a vein to mine? These choices rarely trend. No one claps for a leader who delays a launch because the terms aren't fair. But the quiet consequences are real. A reputation that holds, a team that tells you bad news in time to fix it, a partner who trusts your yes because your no is respected. If you wield influence, keep one question on your desk. What would this look like if the person with the least power in this situation wrote the summary tomorrow? Live so that their version does not need to edit their pain to protect your image. And if you follow others, keep one question in your pocket. Do I get smarter and freer near this person, or do I get busier and smaller? Staying near someone who shrinks, you will teach them the wrong lesson about what power is for. We also need mercy for ourselves as we learn. You will overstep. You will feel the thrill of a lever and pull it too hard. You will hear yourself selling past the truth because you are afraid of losing the room. Notice it. Name it. Repair it early. Say, I pushed too fast. Here are the trade-offs we didn't discuss. Say, I framed that to win, not to inform. Here is the fuller picture. Say, I used your fear to hurry you. Take your time. Repair doesn't erase harm, but it interrupts the slide toward a self you do not want to become. Ethical power is not spotless. It is accountable. If all of this sounds heavy, let it also sound like relief. You do not have to manipulate to matter. You do not have to dominate to direct. You do not have to be worshipped to be worthy. The best influence feels like oxygen. People think more clearly around you, not less. They make choices they can live with tomorrow. They disagree with you and still feel safe to stay. They leave the room with more of themselves, not less. That is power that ages well. Tonight, ask yourself one gentle audit. Where did I bend reality to keep control? And what would it look like to return truth to that place, even if it costs me speed or shine? Maybe it is an apology with details, not theater. Maybe it is a meeting where the loudest voice listens first. Maybe it is a message that says, here is what I want, and here is what it will cost you. If that doesn't work, I'll respect your no. These are small acts, but small acts are how we choose who we are with power in our hands. In the end, the ethics of power are simple to say and hard to live. Tell the truth, honor consent, welcome questions, return control where it belongs, and hold your influence lightly enough that others can breathe. If you can do that, imperfectly, steadily, you will discover the quiet authority that does not need a stage to exist. You will become the kind of person people trust, not because you always win, but because no one has to get smaller for you, to stand tall. And when you finally put your head on the pillow, you will feel the rarest form of victory in a world addicted to advantage. The clean weight of a day where you chose strength without cruelty, clarity without spin, and leadership without the need to hold anyone else by the throat to prove you had a voice. Chapter 10. Mastery. Becoming the controller, not the controlled. The paradox of real power is simple and unsettling. The moment you stop needing control is the moment you start having it. People think dominance is loud, but the kind of influence that lasts moves like gravity, unseen, constant, and calm. If that surprises you, Good. Surprise opens a door. Walk through with me, and let's talk about mastery. The kind that doesn't break rooms to prove it can hold them. To use dark psychology with awareness and restraint is to admit the tools exist and then decide, every day, how cleanly you'll hold them. You already know how framing steers attention, how scarcity quickens the pulse, how mirroring softens defenses, how timing changes minds. The question now is not, can you move people? It's who you become when you do. Mastery begins where appetite ends. You stop pulling levers to soothe your own anxiety and start choosing language that keeps everyone's dignity intact, including your own. You let the truth do more of the lifting. You reveal your interests instead of hiding them. You give people the real trade-offs and trust them to be adults. Influence becomes less like a trick and more like a shared map. Here's where I'm going. Here's why. Here's what it costs. Here's where you might fit. Take your time. Turning manipulation into strategic communication looks ordinary from the outside. You stop pressing pain points and start naming priorities. You stop engineering urgency and start clarifying timelines. You replace flattery with accurate appreciation. Specific, earned, not a sugar high. You replace guilt with options, threat with consequence, performance with process. Strategy at this level is just honesty arranged with care. You watch what a room fears, and you don't exploit it. You stabilize it. You watch what a room hopes for, and you don't counterfeit it. You make a path to it step by step. You still frame, but you frame transparently. You still persuade, but you persuade with evidence and patience. The irony is that people follow you faster when they can see your hands. Reading people instantly is not magic. It is attention practiced until it looks effortless. Start with baseline, not with bias. Notice how a person sits when they are calm, the music of their natural voice, the rhythm of their hands when they explain something safe. Baseline is your ruler. Change is your signal. When truth turns to concealment, you'll often see micro-pauses before simple answers. A swallow after denial. A mouth that smiles while the eyes don't join. Shoulders that lift and stay high, as if the body forgot to exhale. When warmth turns to manipulation, you'll feel pace changes that don't match content. Too fast when you need detail. Too slow when they're buying time. Feet point to exits, long before words confess it. Palms disappear when cooperation fades. They reappear when trust returns. But read lightly. Bodies speak many dialects. A glance away can mean shame, not lies. A fidget can mean excitement, not deceit. The most reliable tells are clusters that repeat, not a single twitch that flatters your suspicion. The moment you think, I can read everyone, you stop reading. What is actually there? Mastery stays humble enough to keep learning. Emotional calibration is the skill that lets you steer a room without grabbing it. You modulate your energy like a dimmer, not a switch. When a discussion overheats, you cool your voice and shorten your sentences so other nervous systems mirror your pace. When a team is flat and fearful, you lend them your certainty, not as theater, but as a scaffold. Clear next steps. Clear protection for honest mistakes. Clear reasons that tether the work to meaning. When someone arrives flooded with anger, you meet intensity with grounded presence. Upright posture, slow breath, eyes soft, boundaries firm. You don't splash back. You become the bowl that contains the water. When someone is shut down, you don't kick the door. You sit at the threshold and ask smaller questions that can bear a yes. Calibration is not people-pleasing. It is leadership of temperature. You decide when the room needs more heat for courage and when it needs more shade for thinking. The more precise your calibration, the less you rely on pressure. You don't need deadlines that are lies when you can build momentum with cadence. You don't need scarcity tricks when you can articulate value without drama. You don't need the costume of authority when your steadiness becomes its own proof. Your yes carries weight because your no is real. Your silence means something because you don't use it to punish. People relax around you and tell you the bad news while there is still time to fix it. That is control by calmness, the final evolution. You are no longer trying to win rooms. You are building rooms where winning together is easier than winning alone. Calm control looks like rituals more than speeches. You buy time on purpose. "I'll answer tomorrow" is a tool you keep sharp. You put important decisions on paper so feelings don't rewrite them in the night. You keep one person near you who isn't impressed and is allowed to say, "You're selling past the truth," and you listen without flinching. You clear your nervous system with simple, unfancy practices. Water before debate. Breath before answer. Walk after conflict. Sleep before signing. You track how your body votes before your mouth does. A jaw that tightens may be telling you the deal is wrong, even if the numbers sing. A chest that opens may be telling you a risk is right, even if the crowd doubts. Calmness is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to hear feeling without letting it drive. There will be days when you reach for old levers. You'll hear yourself enhancing a story to speed agreement. You'll feel the itch to press someone's shame because it works. You'll want to protect your image at the cost of someone else's reality. Those are crossroads. Mastery doesn't mean you never stand there. It means you notice the sign and choose the harder road often enough that, over time, it becomes your default. Repair quickly when you miss it. "I pushed too fast. Here are the trade-offs I skipped." "I framed that for effect. Here is the fuller picture." "I used your fear to hurry you. Take your time." Clean sentences sand down the edges of accidental harm. People trust leaders who mend in daylight. You will also meet manipulation from others and feel the old anger rise. "How dare they try that on me?" Let your anger tell you a boundary needs reinforcing. Then let it soften into clarity. Scammers and charmers lose their shine when you slow your yes. You do not have to expose them to reclaim your power. You only have to stop being an easy mark. Ask for terms. Decline invented deadlines. Move conversations to formats where confusion can't hide. Email, a shared document, a recording with consent. Make your decisions where your logic is strongest. After rest, with witnesses, in alignment with your non-negotiables. Mastery understands that most traps are sprung by speed, not by genius. Reading truth and deceit in yourself is the deepest task. Watch where you sell yourself a story to keep a comfort. "I'm just direct" when you were unkind. "I'm just strategic" when you were evasive. "I'm protecting the team" when you were protecting your status. Mastery can survive those admissions because mastery isn't brittle. When you name the unflattering thing, it shrinks. When you hide it, it grows roots. Keep a small ledger, not of others' mistakes, but of your corrections. You'll begin to trust yourself not because you never err, but because you reliably return. If you use these tools to dominate, your world will become efficient and airless. People will comply and extinguish. Your victories will feel strangely weightless and require more noise to impress even yourself. If you use these tools to coordinate human effort around shared truth, your world will be slower in the beginning and astonishingly fast later. Trust removes friction. Clarity shortens meetings. Accountability ends the need for surveillance. Calm becomes contagious. The more calm you create, the less control you have to take. Let's end with a vision that is quieter than the fantasies of conquest, but far more durable. Imagine walking into a high-stakes room and feeling your breath stay steady. You listen first, not because you're timid, but because listening gives you the levers you won't need to yank. You name the problem in a way that makes people exhale, because they recognize themselves in it. You propose a path that admits costs and therefore earns belief. You invite disagreement and hold it without punishment. You leave with fewer admirers and more allies, fewer fireworks and stronger foundations. You go home untangled from the need to be the hero and sleep like someone whose mind is not a battlefield. Before you close your eyes tonight, ask yourself one gentle question. Where in my life could I trade intensity for accuracy, pressure for process, charm for clarity, speed for steadiness, and still arrive? Only cleaner? Choose one conversation, one habit, one decision to try it on. Mastery is not a crown placed on your head. It is a rhythm in your nervous system, a way of moving that other people can lean on without losing themselves. Become that rhythm. Be the person who does not need to push to be felt, who does not need to win to be worth hearing, who steadies a room by being the first to slow down. In a world addicted to force, your calm will be the rarest and most persuasive kind of control. Conclusion: the shadow and the light. Here is the final paradox. The parts of you tried hardest to hide were never your enemy. They were untapped power waiting for a kinder witness. Darkness lives in everyone. Ignoring it makes you fragile. Understanding it makes you whole. When you stop pretending to be only light, your life stops pretending to be only chaos. Mastery was never about bending people to your will. It was about seeing clearly while the world performs. Awareness is the quiet skill that outlasts every trick. It slows your breath when urgency lies. It widens the frame when fear narrows it. It lets you choose at your pace when the room demands a yes. You will still feel the pull of flattery, the sting of guilt, the hum of scarcity, but they become weather moving across a steady sky instead of storms that carry you away. This is the final revelation. When you control your mind, you don't need to control anyone else. The room can be loud, and you can remain free. Influence is not evil. It is the current of human life. We shape and are shaped by stories, by faces we love, by rooms we enter, by words we repeat. The question was never whether influence exists. The question is who you become as you use it. Let your knowledge protect rather than exploit. Let your certainty build bridges instead of cages. Let your calm be the gravity that helps other people find their balance. So as we close, return to the simplest truth. The journey ends where real power begins. Within. Not on a stage, not in a headline, not in the applause of a crowd, but in the quiet moment where you notice the old hook and smile, because it no longer catches. Tonight, ask yourself gently, where can I trade speed for steadiness, performance for presence, suspicion for clarity? Choose one small place and practice there. Tomorrow, practice again. If this series helped you see a little more of yourself and a little more of the world, stay with us. Subscribe to Dark Audio Vision, turn on the notifications, and share this chapter with one person who needs a calmer kind of power. Your support lets us keep making honest, thoughtful work. for minds that refuse to be steered. Walk with us. The shadow and the light both belong to you, and so does the road ahead.